Okay, so we're live on Facebook and YouTube. We've got a new friend in the house. We'll be back here shortly. I'm just going to play the intro. Here we go. Everybody, good to see you. First show of the day. We have 4 shows today. We're going to have about close to 30 shows this week. And thank you, Leilani, for that, and everybody else. And thank you, everybody, for your continued love and support and contributions that allow us to keep doing this by the seat of our pants every day. But we're still able to do it. So welcome everybody on YouTube and Facebook. If these shows resonate with you, please share, because it looks like as of yesterday afternoon, we're getting suppressed on both Facebook and YouTube again. So we would appreciate it if you could share it out a little bit. We've got a new friend in the house. Holly Strong is her name. And we're going to get to know her a little bit. And I believe, if I remember from this morning, although I wasn't totally myself, as I was trying to get the cobwebs out, I believe she is, no, I better not. I better ask her. I don't want to assume anything. I went to her website, and I think there's something that she does that we'd like to talk about. Here you go. There you go. You just have to unmute. Unless you want to do sign language.
Goodness, no. Hello. Thank you so much for having
Holly.
me.
How are you doing? Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. I went to your website. Do you have a website?
I do. quintessencehealingarts.com.
And I want to say, did I see something in there about sexuality?
Yep.
Was that you?
Yeah.
Was it synergetic sexuality?
It's sexual and soul synergist.
Okay, sexual and soul synergist.
The term I'm using.
Well, I saw.
But
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
It encompasses so much more. As you know, we're such complex beings, and
yes.
There's a lot to be healed, both internally and externally, both self-implied and externally thrust upon us. So I help with those things. And I've also started a Facebook group called Transcendental Enclave.
I saw that. I went over there.
And then
I liked it.
A budding podcast.
That's good.
Why? Yeah. And
That's
why
good.
I started that was some of the other groups that I'm a part of, I was just sick and tired of all the censoring and you can't do this and you can't do this and you can't.
Oh, in the groups?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the groups? Yeah. Isn't that something?
It's ridiculous.
It's
so
like,
I was like, enough of this. I'm going to start my own group, and I'm going to invite everybody to speak their truth, post what they want, as long as they're respectful.
Yeah.
And so far it's been pretty good, and I'm really enjoying doing the podcasts.
That's excellent. What to talk about that. Isn't that interesting though about these groups? I remember when I came off the streets 2013, and I started well, I had a Soulspeaks group, but I was running it off a flip phone. There was only about 400 people in it. And, but I started to try to get some exposure and expand awareness of what I was doing, what Soulspeaks was doing. So I joined a bunch of groups, and it was interesting back then because there was a lot of group specific stuff, which was cool, like support for empaths, star seeds, visitation. There was just a lot of different stuff. And then I noticed kind of a shift, man. And because I was told when I started Soulspeaks, everyone's included. It has to be, it can't have any restrictions. You have to have faith and not lay down any absolutes. And it was kind of interesting, but we've always been able to do that. And somehow or another, that third energy, where two or more gather, assists us. And then what I've noticed in the last year or so is that a lot of people will send me invitations to join groups, and I want to support them. And I'll go in and I'll answer these 6 questions before you come in the door. And I'm like, no,
I don't like
exit.
those.
I know, I just exit. And then the other thing I found interesting too, that you just reminded me of, was there's so much, and rightfully so, there's so much, so much being said, comments being made about the censorship, which we go through here with YouTube and Facebook, as well as everybody else does, where it's really kind of gotten ridiculous lately. But at the same time, to your point, these groups are mirroring the same thing. They're censoring their little part of the universe. And what everybody is going to get to through force or flow is that we've all got to be the same. There are no exceptions to anything. It's a wide open proposition, and that will never change. And that is the universe, So
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's interesting. Now, how many podcasts have you done? How wet have you gotten?
Not too many. Probably 4.
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe 5. I started my first one with my divine soul partner that
I wanted to talk
I'm
about
with.
that too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we just talked a little bit and about our experiences, and and then I reached out to some soul family and interviewed them and their specific stories that I'm connected with, how we're connected, and then offshoots of that.
Yeah.
That's really there's
Well,
a lot to talk about.
There's a lot of people starting podcasts, and I've said for a couple of 2-3 years, everybody pick up a phone, don't rehearse it, just start talking. I mean, this is
that's the best way.
It is.
And I've a few years back, I have not really been awakened more than this is the 6th year, and it was just a whirlwind. I was, the thought had crossed my mind. I was pretty much like Isis's husband, who fought with his brother and was cut up into many pieces and spread out all over everywhere and hidden, and she went and gathered all the parts and except one that she created on her own. And then Horus came out of that, which is actually one of my soul fractals I discovered. Although I don't have any contact, he just is like, nope, not yet. Like, okay. But that's pretty what it was, a lot of my story. I pretty well.
So you were very scattered. Yeah.
Very. I am definitely one of those targeted ancient souls that everybody's got their finger on and monitoring and following, and split me up into a zillion pieces that I had to go find and retrieve. And
I've never heard anybody describe it like that. That resonates with me.
Oh yeah. When you're of a certain DNA lineage,
yes,
your DNA is highly valued, but also highly feared by the dark side. And they do everything in their power to keep you from waking up and pursuing your soul mission while you came here. So
that resonates. But
yeah.
it's like everything else. At least this is my impression, and from my own experiences, that they can't do anything to you. They can distort things to kind of lead you this way or lead you that way. You know, for instance, I had issues with drug addiction. And I know from the time that I was going through this period, which was probably about a 2-year period, I could see very easily through the third eye. I was having divine episodes, but at the same time, I could sense there was something occurring that was pulling me out of my body, basically. Like I wasn't even me at times. And I knew that it was I considered it astral, like fourth dimensional, like the space between 5D and 3D. I don't know what your experience has been.
Oh, a lot. Journals full of stories.
So what happened 6 years ago in 2014 when you woke up? Was there something that set it all off?
Yeah, actually. One part was I discovered Hay House Radio online, and I was brought up pretty religious as well, which they used against me. But a lot of what I heard there was like, whew, I couldn't even hardly hear about the angels, you know. I mean, it was, well, no, I take that back. I was pretty good with the angels, but a lot of, you know, the ghosts and aliens, and, you know, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like skip over that one. And also I was kind of following my instincts as far as YouTube goes, and just felt compelled to listen to certain people. And that led me, one of those occurrences led me to an organization that was just, you know, in its first couple months of starting, and that is humancolonies.org.
What is it?
Humancolonies.org.
Humancolonies.org.
Yep, and it's Max and Jim Charles. Max is a Jewish geneticist that migrated here to the States. I think he's in California or something. But he used to be there in Upper New York where Jim is, Jim Charles. So they were pretty well my saving grace early on, and I'll explain more of that in a minute. But one of the YouTube was this channeled message about, it was a Palladian message, and something I heard, it was like at 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep, and I was listening with my earbuds, and something just snapped. I went, oh, they're real, you know, and I ran upstairs. Yeah, the otherworldly beings. I always sort of felt, kind of knew that instinctually, but you know, this didn't allow. So I remember running up to my son, who is a night owl, and I was like, he's open his door, and he was doing some online stuff, and I'm like, I just discovered, and you know, I like spurted like for an hour. So shortly after that, I mean, his eyes were huge, his mouth hung open. He was like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be good. He's still not awakened. He just kind of gave up on me. So as what most all my family has. So
well, that's the same story everybody hears, Scott.
Yeah. So, I'm just like, whatever.
So this is, I mean, like you, even though you said it's not that long ago, still 6 years in this, 7 years in this transition we call ascension is like, you know, many lifetimes.
Yeah.
Especially as the years go by. So you have this, not only do you wake up and go through the transformation of a traditional Western religious upbringing or whatever influence into full-blown, I'm crazy and I'm okay with it, to having...
I'm there now. At the time I was struggling.
Well, but I mean, you have, it sounds like, based on your website, based on what you were talking about earlier, that you have specific experience and information downloaded to you in regard to, say, for instance, sacred sexuality, and you're also having the experience of being in a conscious divine union, and all the things that go with that. So
Yes.
you're right, and you're
It
a
was
practitioner.
partly through that interaction. I mean, almost right away, I discovered I was meditating one day, and I had noticed, I looked down, and my stomach was kind of like really bloated. I'm like, what is that? And I had some music playing in the background, and all of a sudden my music stopped, and I hear telepathically, it was Prime Creator. And he came and said, you wonder what that is? And I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of was. And he said, well, you have 2 new souls in there. I was like, what?
2 new souls.
2 new souls. And I just was like, instantly put my hands on my stomach. Now, Rob and I both cannot have children. So it's just okay.
But when this occurred, were you in a situation where you were being physically intimate?
Yes, just started. It was like right after, like,
okay. So right when y'all came together, this etheric
oh yeah, I can't even put it into words exactly what happened, but it was a double thing. Physical and astral all happened at the same time, and when it was over, I just grabbed his face, and here well, that's a whole nother story, but I remember just looking at him after that whole experience, of which I barely understood, and I just said, my soul just spoke and said, I love you.
Okay, so,
and of course it freaked him out,
I bet. So this happened to you. You just met, his name is Rob, right?
Rob, yeah.
You just met Rob. You just start to have a physical, sacred, intimate relationship. And right after that happens, you get a visit from Prime Creator, and you have 2 beings in your womb.
No, I don't have a womb. It's in my lower.
Well, I mean, but you had.
But yeah, in my lower abdomen, they're like, imagine an energy ball. Well, there were 2 in there, and they do take up space. And I was, of course, had a million questions. I'm like, okay.
Did you think you were having did you think at any moment that you were having immaculate conception?
No, not. Okay.
I mean, like, no. Physical, where you would have. So
it's physical, yet not.
Yeah. So what? Now, how long ago was this, and what happened with the 2 energies in your body?
Okay. What happened? Right around that time, I discovered in the astral, my soul, along with PC, created a planet, and it's called Nevaeh. I named it later once I was allowed to remember about it, and that's where the souls go, is to Nevaeh, which is a freshwater, very Earth-like, pristine planet, somewhere between the 63rd and 64th dimension on the outskirts of the galaxy. So very highly protected. So I discovered that ability too, that I heard Neelish Mystery at one of his healing seminars. He thanked all the beings that came to assist, and he thanked all the archangel soul fractals that were there, and then he looked at the camera and he said, and thank you to the God source beings here, you know who you are. And I was like, okay. I felt that one. It's like I hadn't quite heard that term before, but anyway, so we create souls. I have a lot of them now. They in the planet, and oh goodness, just a lot. But it's poor Rob. I mean, when I was led to him, he wasn't awakened at all. But somehow we were to cross paths, and I'd reached a level where I could actually attract something like that. And I wasn't looking for it because both of us were married. So
At the time, both of you were married?
uh-huh. Yep. It was more based through spiritual healing
Now,
meetup.
are you two together now? I mean, like
Yes.
you have a life together. Okay.
Yeah. As
Allison,
of
our friend Allison, and this is before we get off that subject of the planet that you created. Okay. And
I'll tell you its purpose in a minute.
Okay. Allison asked, is there, because you said that's where the souls go, and then you said something a little bit different. So she's asking, is there a birthing of the souls?
A birthing? Not in the way you would think a female does. They actually, the most of the time, unless I specifically ask otherwise, it's I discovered it was Archangel Uriel that comes and gathers them from here to keep them safe and get them to their destination there. Hundreds and hundreds. I've only been with Rob now. As far as first meeting him, it's just coming up on 3 years. Okay. So we've had numerous occurrences of that.
Of what?
Creating new souls, all kinds.
Can you tell me about that? How does that work? Is this tied to sacred sexuality?
Yes. Okay. And sometimes it happened without intention. Other times it can just with intention, specifically. And one of my first ones I want to add, and I spoke with her this morning, was Octavia.
Who is Octavia?
Octavia's one of my children.
Okay, so let's go. I just want to make sure because I don't want to miss anything. So let's go back to the first occurrence, and you had the two energies that were conceived. Okay. Yeah. What happened to those two?
I believe they went to Nevaeh. I'm actually not sure because they don't always stay there. Nevaeh is its specialty. Think of it as this healing resort. And its specialty, I found out, is reproductive healing. Now, this is on the galactic scale I'm talking. So you run across species in different races that have, through their own genetic manipulations, can no longer reproduce. That's one of the specialties of going there is two representatives will come there and they will be healed no matter what their race, so they can reproduce, and then they take that back. They pretty well come as a couple and leave as a family. Okay. They don't usually.
So that's very cool. So
including the specialty too, as well as interspecies. You get two different species that become a couple that are just impossible to procreate.
Let's go back to that. I'm going to get, we've got Delia is asking this question, so she's tuned in. I got a million questions.
Oh, sure.
She says, are you involved in reproduction in the hybrids with the galactics? Yep. And then she says, it sounds like the hybrid program that is happening.
Well, no, I was a part, as far as just that goes, hybridization, but yes, that would create hybrids.
So let me ask you this question. Based on your experience, because the way I look at everything, and I'm not saying this is the gospel, I'm just saying this is how I see it. Anything you can do, I can do. Whether I,
Yeah.
and in fact, anything you have done, I've probably done, whether I'm conscious of it or not. And that goes all the way around for everybody, right? So, given your experience, a couple of questions. One, do you think it's within the realm of possibility that we pretty much all are, through the vehicle of divine love, both conscious and unconscious, both in the physical and the non-physical and all of the above, are coming together, uh, integrating, conceiving third energy, conceiving children, birthing new souls, birthing new planets, birthing new universes, and so on? Do you think that's conceivable? Do you think that's what's happening?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then
And
as
from
far,
firsthand experience.
okay. And then on top of that, back to what you said toward the end there, is it conceivable that, based on your experience, that these unions, the spirit of divine love, the spirit of two polarities or two opposites or two fractals coming together in divine love, uh, all dimensions, all timelines, uh, is actually taking on a physicality, such as what you're talking about when you have two different types of species of, let's say, star family that come together that can't conceive, and in the spirit of love, they come together in a little place like this planet that you co-created and are able to bear essentially
Physical.
yes, that's what I'm getting at, yes. So
And how that occurs, one, there's very stringent regulations, not just anybody can go there. I mean, they have to jump through hoops before they're allowed on planet. And they can stay as long as they like. And the payment is doing what brings you joy for others, be it painting, building, cooking, singing, and you can stay as long as you wish within reason. I have invited some to stay permanently. But what happens is, say those two beings come. And now I want to quickly put in a little story. The first day I found myself on that planet, the first day I consciously visited, I was drawn by the smell of food cooking, and it was very minimal. It was mostly just this island, and very low roofed structure, and somebody was cooking something somewhere, and I just was drawn to the food. So there was a little line, so I went and got in line. I'm like, well, let's see what this is, right? I just gotten there, and I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and up against the back wall behind me, there's a humanoid looking man. I think he had red hair. Not human, but humanoid. And then next to him was his female mate. I could feel she's a mate, but they were not the same race. I mean, she was like 3 feet taller, very skinny and thin, big eyes. But what was really unusual, her legs and arms were like a metal hose. And they smiled, and they handed me this little foot-long blanketed being, and they said, thank you. They were thanking me, and I had no idea why. And I'm looking at this thing, I pull back the blankie, and it's a combination of the two of them. His body looked, like a nice blending of the two, but his arms and legs were like Mom. And she said, go ahead and, pull it out a little. It works, I'm like, oh my goodness.
So basically, it sounds like you had something to do with their ability to conceive.
They knew me. Evidently, my soul was been there doing that work already, and I just didn't know it.
Now, okay, so now
there's a nursery there. I need to add, though, there's a very special place on that island. It's hidden, secret, it's invisible. And it's the whole, once you're allowed in, it's that's where the souls, the energy balls have a body. They create a body.
Now, who creates the body? The soul itself, or someone creates it for them?
Well, it's not me. There's
So the
females
soul, okay.
in there. There's like workers, and it's like a nursery. They birth in there. They have incubators that those new little soul balls go into. And I don't really know the process. I
got you. So let me ask you again, in a general sense, we have this question: who am I? What is this? What am I doing? What are we doing here? How does it all work? So just in general, somewhat metaphorical terms, there is one soul. Let's just say one. There's the one that we're all part of.
Oh yes.
And the
source
one,
before source
yes.
Before the source is how it's presented. Presented.
So just to try to get some definition to this and get our arms around it, we'll just call that, I'll just call it the I am soul. We use soulology terminology. So that is the soul, the one soul. It splits. Now there's two. They split. Now there's four, and so on and so on and so on. Based on what you're telling me, it sounds like that maybe the base component in universal expansion is the creation of souls that come from the union of, I would guess, two or more souls to create a new soul, which because it's made in the image of the image of the image of the image all the way back to the one soul, is through its own evolution of self-awareness becomes a conscious creator, and therefore it's very possible, for instance, like in this situation you're talking about, that as they come into their own awareness and start to tap into,
as that soul comes into their awareness, they also can at that point start injecting their wants into their form.
That's what I mean.
Their personality comes through above and beyond their parents.
That's it. Let's cover that one real quick. I've always wondered about this.
So
I know
go ahead. I'm sorry. So much to talk about.
That's okay. If you want to go ahead and say something, that's fine. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just now getting in. I was told recently, as you saw from my website, that is kind of a new focus to take those abilities that Nevaeh does and bring it here to Earth.
Say that again.
The creation abilities from Nevaeh. I haven't really done it before, not here, but I know that's a possibility, and using those creation energies to help others here on this earth to create and heal in all aspects of that. And beyond.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's a really important, this is my opinion, there's a cosmic vice versa to that. Like what we're doing here, figuring this shift out, in our own evolution is equally stimulating and illuminating and expansive for the environments that our other aspects abide in. So it works both ways, is how I feel about it. And in fact, my higher self's told me that. I learn as much from you as you do from me.
Yes.
And I know he or it was speaking in on behalf of all of the multidimensional aspects. That are. Yeah.
I am a big believer in there are no limits, and I don't set any for me, and it's been valuable. I mean, I believe in miracles, creating.
Absolutely, we are miracles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Born of a miracle, made to create miracles.
Oh yeah.
More miracles. So I was going to ask you. Personality. I've often wondered about this because there's a part of me, that innate part of me that knows prior to, and I don't have to, I can't prove this, but that knows that my soul has personality.
Oh,
Not
yes.
like the human personality with, different things and, different things that might have been influenced upon us by our conditioning and our experience. But I really get the sense, and have always have, that there's a personality to this soul that is unique in all ways, in I guess in respect to all other souls. What's your feelings on that?
Absolutely. One of the things Rob and I can do is channel. And I did an experiment recently, and we got our pen and paper, and I always have a million questions. I mean, other beings that come in, they're always just kind of chastising me, like, oh God, here she is again. So anyway, we channeled each other's souls, the fractal within us that animates this body, which in itself is a complete sentient being,
Yeah.
separate from the flesh, but working in symbiotic relationship. Yeah. So I never thought to do that before. That's kind of a new thing, but it's certainly feasible that I can help others speak with their soul or channel their soul.
Let me understand this. You and Rob are in the same space. You're channeling his higher self and he's channeling yours?
No, not higher selves. The actual soul fractal in your body.
And when you say the actual soul fractal, you're talking about the total wholeness of your fractal, or just this aspect that's
just
walking in this realm?
Just this aspect in this now.
So in other words, by what you're describing, and just so I can be clear for everybody, let's say that you, the entire complete you, separated or whatever, was born as a fractal of the one soul, and then your essence was then fractalized into many different fractals, and now you're talking about being able to channel the soul fractal that is contained in this incarnation that is
absolutely
in your body, or your body's in it, whatever it is. So that's what we're talking about.
And so I've also had quite a bit of interaction with other soul fractals of me currently alive on different timelines and different planets and different forms. And I've even discovered myself very consciously being called to them as a higher self of them. And that was kind of a really pretty cool thing.
So but describe to me how, okay, talk to me for a minute about the soul fractal that is in this particular incarnation that you're referring to, that you and Rob channeled for each other, with each other. Tell me about the lineage of that particular fractal. Do you know? Does it have a certain journey that's unique in and of itself in respect to all the other fractals that compose you and your entirety?
Yes, it does have its specific journey, I guess. I don't know all of it yet. I'm just now building a very conscious telepathic rapport with it. Him, actually, I have a male soul fractal, and Rob has the female component, which is pretty common. But it's,
what do you mean that's common? That in
well, from what I've the few other twin flames I've met, it seems to be, at least the ones that I know of, the female holds the male soul fractal and the male holds the female soul. So it's not unusual that when you're together, you just flip back and forth constantly,
How did you and Rob get to the point where you were sitting down with each other to channel one another's soul fractal unique to this incarnation? Were you guided to do it? Did it just happen naturally, or how did that go?
It was just this intuitive thought I had. There were specific, I think it probably had to do with my mission. I wanted more details, and there's just so many details. And so we set a time limit, a half hour for each one, and we took notes and asked questions, and even had questions written out ahead of time, because Rob doesn't think like I do. So we pre-wrote out questions that we wanted answered, and then just read it and fill in the blanks.
So you said that when you met Rob that he wasn't awake.
Nope.
But obviously he has some level of involvement to be participating in experiences like this with you. So when it comes to sacred sexuality in this realm, in this time and space now, as we're in this transition, what has that part of this new type of relationship brought to the table for you? Has it opened up portals? Has it provided downloads? Has it provided divine episodes with or without apparitions? What part of in this part of the new relationships or the newfound relationships, the divine unions, what part or what has that sacred sexuality, that new type of intimacy brought to you and to Rob?
Well, pretty well everything you said. For one thing, it has created a lot of mirroring, I guess, and healing and issues, connections, traumas, both in this lifetime and past or parallel, because they all affect our now. And it's really created a lot of healing in me specifically, and it's part of why I'm so passionate about this sacred sexuality and healing, because that is one of the areas in us humans that have been vastly interfered with.
Yes.
Particularly, traumas, this life traumas, past life traumas, infused external programs and
Yes.
implants and disbeliefs, and just so many levels. And when I started awakening, the energies as it flows into you from God, source, and universe, and whatever, it literally would stop at my belly button. And I heard, I don't know exactly who spoke to me telepathically, but one day before I even woke up, I heard a being tell me, you need to fix this. You can't move one step forward in your ascension unless you heal and unblock your whole lower chakras. They were absolutely dead.
So the energy was moving from the upper chakras to the lower chakras, and then it stopped at your navel.
Yeah, right? It'd come into just below my heart and literally stop. It was just dead. So nothing. And there was no back and forth flow. And a lot of that was external influences.
Yeah.
And programs and a lot of that.
Let me ask you this. So you said some of that was due to, or a lot of that was due to external, imprints or attachments or implants. How much does the story matter, whether it's in regard to this situation that you're describing, our own waking up now through the traumas and the conditioning and the programming? How much does the story matter once we become aware?
Well, that's the biggest thing, you know. Once you become aware, then you can do something about it.
Yes.
But it's through these, I love shamanic journeys. I can't just sit and be quiet. It's unusual for me. So through these journeys, I still have things I'm not aware of. I'm still healing myself, but I have made huge strides, and I've helped others as well in all areas with all the different techniques and that I've learned. And journeying is one of those fabulous ways to go within your own soul in a very safe way.
Can you give us a general description of what you're talking about when you say shamanic journey and being quiet?
Okay. Journeying, it's in the beginning, I learned to use the shamanic drumming, which is done in such a way that it matches, I'm sorry for the noise, matches the electronic impulses of your brain. So it's used as a focusing tool, this shamanic drumming. Once you get past the irritation of it, then it takes your mind and the drumming off to like the side. And then you're just, the ego, that's it. It takes the ego off to another room, okay? So you're just free and clear. And you go within your own soul, basically. And there's an upper world that deals with your upper chakras, the lower world that deals with your lower chakras, and then the middle world that deals with the unseen around you. The middle world is the only place where you have to have protection because you can be attacked in this middle world. And I've really never felt the need to go there. It wasn't pleasant.
To me, that what you're describing, and because I've never heard this described this way, I can think of Emanuel Swedenborg, who was in the age of the Renaissance, and very prolific spiritual leader, and he traveled to the heavens or to the cosmos or to other dimensions for 17 years after a very illustrious, multifaceted career to include medicine and engineering and science and all. And he talked about the 144 levels of heaven and hell, 72 being, of course, this is metaphoric, 72 being upper, 72 being lower. He never mentioned the middle ground, but now this kind of resonates with me. That's why I'm asking you about it. If I look at my own wake-up experience and look at my non-physical interactions, and in retrospect, certainly I understood what 3D was. 5D to me was the other side, and in the middle there was an astral plane, which I guess for me I would call the fourth dimension, but it was different than the higher dimension, in that there were forces that could infringe upon your space, basically.
Yes.
And is that, I mean, I know we can get stuck on semantics, but it sounds like in this shamanic journey, there's a middle ground there.
Well, if there's any harm that can be done to you at all, you're in the middle world.
But wouldn't the middle ground be, because what is the womb of the holy darkness? What is the womb of Mother Universe? I mean, this is a space where it's totally the void. You know, it didn't say in the sacred text, let there be dark. It said, let there be light, which means it had to be dark. To me, it seems like the unknown, the mysterious, the abyss, the void, which could, for all intents and purposes, based on your explanation and my own experience and what I was talking about with the astral plane, this is a space of wild untamed, unbridled energy, maybe that space is the womb. Maybe that space is where we create stuff. Maybe that space is where we learn to integrate all aspects of dark and light. I don't know.
It certainly can be. I don't perceive it as dimensions at all. And it is through your own soul's creation as to what it looks like, although it can be completely changed.
Yeah.
This is also where you meet your totem animals, your animal spirit guides, your teachers, and you can travel to other realms through there. I have as well. I still pretty much stay out of the middle world. I just don't feel the need to be there. But in this upper and lower realms of your own consciousness, and all the beings, all the animals you come across to teach you, help you, heal you, whatever your intention is. 1, you're completely safe. 2, everything is always the truth and for your highest good. And 3, any being that you come across is an aspect of yourself. Well, something you've been.
Wouldn't that be true for anything, period? Like me looking at you, at some level, are we not aspects of each other?
I suppose. I just don't.
No, I'm not
I
trying to be
don't
smart.
consciously.
Yeah. It just seems like what you're describing to me.
Yes, we are all connected at a certain level. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary.
But this is internal. This journeying is in your own soul, your own DNA, your own universe within you.
Right.
But is where you're going. But you can also go externally.
Yeah. But as within, without. So when something's happening internally, it's happening externally. And I think this is maybe something that's front and center now as we get into 2020, which is, this is a quantum environment. And let's say that I have a problem, a very serious, legitimate, understandable problem with pedophilia and child trafficking. Okay. If I keep my focus on the external aspect of that, it's not really going to change. But if I go into my, like you said, my own universe, and I find the aspects that are involved in the episode, that are involved in the situation, myself, my own, and begin to marry those things and unite those things and integrate those things, then there will be a direct influence and transformational seed planted in the external, and that's my contribution to the collective. I mean, this is fascinating. This is the new spirit science. And there's so many ways in talking to people like you that the truth can be explained and the picture's painted. You know?
Yeah, and one of the nice things too is if I help someone, I mean, I literally can go on this journey with you. I mean, you'll have your guardian angel on your left side and I'm on your right. I can be right there with you, guiding, helping you to ask the right questions. That's really important, knowing which questions to ask. And guiding you side by side into this journey within yourself.
This is so interesting to me. I'm married to a practitioner, a very astute practitioner that's been doing this over 20 years. So it amazes me in my experience and my observations, not just with her, but with the work that I do in my own experiences as a facilitator and as a client, right? That as you're describing what you're describing in the way that you utilize this process, this modality, this shamanic journey, I understand what you're saying in regard to what you offer to the client, okay? At the same time, I've recognized that when I do it myself on either side of the equation, that there is a mutual exchange. It's like as they clear, as they expand, as they come into further alignment, something's actually happening within the practitioner itself also.
Yes, it all depends on your intention, but yeah, it raises,
I mean,
it heals, it raises your.
Even if it's not conscious.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, you know, like for instance, yeah.
There was a fellow you interviewed, a friend of mine, like myself, Don Parkinson, I believe is his last name. I recently took him on his first journey. And it was really, really rather enlightening. And we just each spoke, you know, what we see, what we feel. And it was all like this puzzle piece coming together, our two perceptions. And it was very cathartic for both of us and surprising to me. I mean, the things that came forward to introduce themselves to him, I was like, and one of them was one of my Rob and I's creation from Nevaeh. I'm like, what are you doing here? You know, I was like flabbergasted.
It's a small world, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a small world.
Yeah, so it's you just never know what's going to
Exactly.
happen, and it's and I have to say the biggest thing you can do for yourself, no matter what you're doing and what you're wanting to accomplish, is you have got to let go of that fear and adopt a mindset of no limits.
Yeah.
Don't put boundaries on yourself.
Yeah.
Because we certainly aren't that way. In outside of this now, we are limitless. So why do it here?
Not even outside this now, in this now. And I think that's what
it's changing.
I think that's what the grand experiment or the grand experience or the grand whatever you want to call it is and was and is that we're in this very dense state, both the realm and our bodies and so on, and we're actually like you said earlier, you know, you're pulling down that information from Nevaeh, this process, this coding, and you're rooting it into this very dense dimension. And what's going to happen? I mean, it's alchemic. It's a chemical reaction. Something's going to alter. It's going to change, like the carbon bodies change into a light body. You're bringing in information that's going to further the trajectory of our experience into more of an etherical or dreamlike experience, right? Like in our lucid dreams, you know, where we can pull a lightning bolt out of our back pocket, or you know, whatever the case is, or teleport, or you know, whatever. You know. So let me ask you a couple of things because I don't want to run out of time. We're already actually out of time, but what do you think is, would you, based on your experience? Well, let me ask you this first. Would you and Rob come on together?
Oh, I'm sure he would. He's not quite as chatty as me, but he would have no problem answering questions.
Okay. And so what's your take on what's happening? Like, I mean, I know it's a mixed match of, you know, of non-physical and physical and literal and non-literal and, you know, and all that stuff. But where are you at with what's happening to us here now? And also, thank you, Delia, do you have any intel on the Lion's Gate? Or let me call it the Lioness Gate. I think.
Not specifically. I haven't even delved into that. I do have a connection with the royal white lion lineage. We actually co-created souls, and I went through this phase of you know, like alliances, galactic alliances to bring peace in other realms, you know, kind of like the old-fashioned way of you marry my daughter in this family to the son in this family that usually are at war, but then that'll stop the war when you come together.
Kind of like Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings very similar. I went through a phase of that till Father God came and said, that's enough. I had some real issues with Amun-Ra. So that wasn't very good, but
So what do you think is happening with all of look, we all share two things. We share our eternal soul, and we also share the experience,
I
7.7 billion of us here. What do you
I
think's going on, and where do you think it's headed?
I think it's, as long as we focus on love and what we want, what environment we want to live in, and as detailed as we can be. And I have to say, journeying really helps you with that thinking process. Our bodies are changing. I've certainly felt immense changes within my own, becoming more crystalline, more aware of that big connection, this soul fractal in this body connecting with the main hub, and all that entails. And disclosure that our alien star family are all out there. I mean, almost every night that it's clear, Rob and I go out and we see the ships crisscrossing, and they, occasionally communicate. And
do you think that, and here's another point of contention.
Yeah.
That might be a strong way to put it.
Being a galactic sovereign being.
But are the there's some people that say that the ships are going to land and come in and save our asses, and then there's some that say that there is a protocol in the universe that you can't do for others what they can do for themselves. You can't interfere. It's a violation of universal law. What's your take on that?
I agree. They are restricted. There are galactic rules. I mean, I don't know a lot of them, but that's one of them. Yeah. You can't interfere unless there's divine intervention that says
go to work,
go in and fix it.
Which may very well be the reason we're all here, 7.7 billion of us, and everyone that's come through here.
Yeah, but on the other hand, our galactic star family and the other versions of ourself that are galactic right now, they're not restricted to come and help you become aware. The thing is, you have to be aware of them, and then you simply ask. And they can help you energetically. They can heal. They can expand your awareness within reason. But there's many, many, many beings, most of which are versions of yourself that are all just waiting to be asked. And you can certainly tap into all the gifts and knowledge of all your other soul fractals currently alive, past, present, future, parallel, and they will assist you. Even your dark ones. I've started having my shadow selves, my dark soul.
They might be fractals. They might be the biggest help to us at this time.
Well, they're starting to come to me, and for so long I was just like the light.
That's right.
And I had blinders on, and it was just black and white, But they're starting to come forward and say, hey, I'm so and so. I'm alive and I'm here.
Yeah.
And this is what I am. And can we do this little energy exchange?
So I mean, if you think about it, if there's any, say you have children, let's just say all of our aspects are children, and I've had 6, and you've probably, what I mean. I mean, you just, let's say that there's one over there that you don't pay as much attention to. We know they're all built differently. We know they all have different experiences and personalities and so on. And some of them you kick in the ass, and some you put your arm around them and talk to them and get them an ice cream, right? But let's say there's one over there in the corner that's not tended to. What happens to a child when they're not getting that attention, right? They get loud. They start to project. You know what I mean? And so maybe what you're describing to me, it's a very good sign, because as the individual goes, so goes the collective. That as you're starting to break bread with your darker, what we would refer to at this level, darker aspects, that is going to bring balance, because they're actually no different than our light
yeah, I was
aspects.
just going to say that. So they come to me and they're like, it was first acknowledgement. I acknowledge you, you acknowledge me. And then we have this energetic exchange. I have, I get a little part of their soul that goes into mine. And
Yeah.
I give my little bit of my light soul into their dark soul. And they carry that lightness back to their dark realm and spread that amongst.
Well, think about it.
Lightening
Which is probably
increasing
one
the
of your,
frequency.
which is probably one of your planetary creations from many incarnations ago. But you know, too much light and too much dark are one and the same thing.
Right.
So if you're
I
field
think
of energy,
that's probably the biggest thing happening right now is this equilibrium happening, you know, not only amongst the humans, but everything around us.
Yeah. Which if
every
you look
being.
at, which if you look at, you mentioned disclosure a while ago. We've got to head out here in a minute, but when you look at disclosure and the topics that are simmering right below the surface that everyone's looking at, but we really haven't had it come out. Not really, right? When you look at that, from the perspective that you're talking about, it's actually going to bring balance to. It's going to send us on a trajectory of a greater balance, to include the emphasis being put right back upon ourselves, which is how are we going to react? You mentioned compassion at the top of the show. How are we going to react to these souls that were taking part in these, from a human perspective, horrific things? Because then the hot potato is going to be on us. Are we going to flame the fires of separation and retribution, or are we going to embody the greater parts of ourselves that will bring a greater peace? I mean, this is a fascinating discussion, and I really appreciate you.
The second one that you said, and all beings, light or dark, all have a spark of divine God in them. Us light bearers are just more of it. They have it, but it's very tiny. And what I've discovered, I've had 3 experiences where Lucifer has sent 3 of his top generals, each one more celebrated than the last. Well, to attack me. And I woke up from a nap knowing, oh my gosh, there's something had attached to me that was just awful, right? This is number 3. So I do a clearing. This one of my specialties is clearing. And I cleared myself, and I make this etheric cage. I put everything in it. I don't really care what's in it. And at that time, I would give them a few minutes to choose the light, and I would let those out to be free, because a lot of beings that are sent to other light workers to attack them are actually sent against their will. So I would give them a chance to choose the light. They are the only ones that could leave to go to wherever, and then the rest I would just open a portal and put the whole cage off to Father God to deal with and transmute those energies. Well, I did that, and while the cage was still there, I hadn't done anything. Something spoke to me. I don't know exactly who exactly. I often don't ask. That there's something in the cage you need to address. So I just closed my eyes and focused in the cage, and there I see this general standing up in the cage, you know, all decked out in the suit and very arrogant. And I'm like, who are you? You know, and he said, I'm Lucifer's top general and da-da-da. I'm like, well, good for you, you know? And that's when I got a very strong urge. this one can be brought to the light. I was like, so
I wonder, I wonder.
And I'll explain how I did this, because you
But
guys can do it too.
Well, hang on a second, because first of all, we're out of time.
Oh dear.
But I want to ask you, was it an attack or a challenge? Or one and the same?
Maybe one of both. I mean, it was
because
painful.
ultimately anything you stuck in that cage was you.
Yeah, just imagine a giant octopus latched onto you and what that
Yeah.
feels like being squeezed.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't fearful, but I'm like, oh, dang, wake up to that. And I could smell them too. And I don't normally smell, but it wasn't pleasant. But I
think that's the whole point. There's parts of all of us that smell.
Well, yeah, we have those.
You know what I mean?
We do have those aspects of ourselves, but being he came from the lower realms, it was appropriate for him. Yeah. So what I did is I stood up and I said, I'm coming in, and what I do is I just reach my hands in there and I put it on either side of his head. And I just went in and I squeezed and I squeezed and I squeezed until there was this, right now I feel somebody out there, there's something in their head. It's between my hands. But I just brought my hands together and I felt that little tiny seed, like the pineal gland that has that tiny little God spark in there. And I just floated with golden energy and I just expanded and expanded until it filled his head. And then I brought my hands out and I said, now you have enough light in you to make a choice. Do you choose the light or the dark? And he immediately went down on his knees like, right?
Can't make this shift up.
So I reached in, I brought him out. I stood him up in front of me. Like, I don't even know how I was seeing this, but he's standing there and now he's in this white robe and he's in his purity, his new pure soul. And I took him by the shoulders and I said, I name you Daniel and you're going to be my guard now. You're going to work for me. And because I was tired of being attacked, And it was like 2 seconds after that, he said, he just bowed his head and said anything, right?
Right on.
And after that, Father Godden said, sorry, Holly, he's mine. Got to say goodbye, but you'll see him again. And he came and he took him away, So, but that you can do with anybody, human, alien.
Well, I mean, what is the difference? I accept all aspects of dark and light.
Oh yeah, there's many ways.
That's the end of the story. I mean, it's interesting how people come into these levels of understanding and actually of understanding and creativity. It's interesting to watch the conversion over the last few months of what we call the light worker community. Where so many, it's nothing that I'm coming up with, but you can just turn on the news feed and watch videos and watch people giving their power away. Tell me what my fortune is. Tell me what my fortune is. Heal me. But you're starting to see people to take that responsibility for themselves. And I think this is part of the feathering out, the fading away of what we call healing, because there's really nothing to heal. It's just aspects of ourselves that we've left in the closet or in the dark corners of the attic that we haven't dealt with that are coming at us in what seems to be an external being, no different than a divine essence or an archangel appearing to me or to you, that we at first see it as external, but eventually we understand that it's like you said at the beginning of the show, it's all inside of us. This is our universe, and as within, without. Fascinating. I didn't mean to go over 17 minutes. We got 3 more shows to do today. It's been fascinating talking to you.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. We could talk for hours, you and I.
Well, invite us back. I'll drag Rob along, and we'll have some more lively conversation.
Yeah, I think.
And I
let's give
hope
you-
I helped some people, you know, just that were listening, and whoever listens, that's just huge. You be fearless. Take back your power. You're the one in control, and delving into the awareness of all the possibilities, which are endless.
That's right. Thank you so much. We'll collaborate
You're
again.
welcome.
I look forward to it. It's a pleasure meeting you. Best to you and Rob, and to
Thank
all your
you.
and to all your little energetic babies and planets.
Thank you. Bless you, and blessings and to all and everyone.